Welcome to the Upfeel Podcast, Episode 5, Personal Perspective on Climate Change.
Okay, hello to both of you, and thank you very much for joining me. Today we will talk a little bit about the climate change and the feelings associated with it. We are doing this podcast within the framework of the project Upfeel, which is an Erasmus Plus project. And the aim of the project is to better understand the feelings and emotions we might have in relation to climate change, and also to offer some tools how to deal with these emotions. I'm going to start by introducing myself. My name is Lena. I'm working for one of the organizations which is involved in the implementation of this project. And now I'll give floor to you to introduce yourselves briefly. Who wants to start?
I can start. I have no problem. So I'm Pierpaolo, and it's a pleasure for me to attend this podcast. And let's talk about a little bit about me. So I studied and worked in Italy as an engineer, and previously in the previous year I also worked in research related about how to decrease the amount of plastic in mechanics production. So I'm really interested how we could, increase the quality of life also for the people, and to be more sensible for the people about this topic. And yeah, this is just a short introduction.
Thank you.
My name is Keita, or in English, Kate. It might be easier. I am Latvian, and I am currently working for the municipality of Riga in a life project called Urban Life Circles, about creating a more biodiverse space within cities. I have worked in the field of sustainability, specifically more in nature conservation, for a while. And mainly, I actually work with public engagement and education.
Okay, thank you. So let's start with the first question. What is the first thing that comes to your mind when someone says climate change? What's the first thing that pops into your head?
I think for me, well, it's definitely negative thoughts. It's this crushing feeling of anxiety and sadness, and thinking about, for instance, climate refugees and floods and big storms and these large wildfires and stuff like that.
So for my point, it's kind of controversial topic, because the news, they focus on everything that is going wrong, because they mix like they keep the people focus on, okay, we have higher temperature, and they don't give you the overview about if something is natural or not. So I'm quite also anxious. For me, it's a kind of feeling that I have, but it's related also because our societies won't put the focus on only a few things, and they don't give you the overview of what is going on in our world. Yeah.
Okay. And how much, like it's the question about the Roman Empire. How much do you think about climate change? Is it like do you think about it daily? Does it kind of pop into your mind daily, or no?
So, well, if you just because you mentioned Roman Empire, and as Italian, I have to say quite a lot, not as the Roman Empire, of course, but I will say daily base, kind of, mainly when I just do my regular things, like daily base activities, and I see some details, I see something that is going on around me, in the environment around me, and then I start to think about what are the effects of when the people, maybe they do something or they don't do something in the normal activities. Yeah.
I would say, well, climate change is a very, very big term. I, for instance, deal with lots of topics like biodiversity, and like I said, specifically nature conservation, which isn't, I guess, it is directly linked to climate change, but at the same time, not really. Like if I'm dealing with just some like plastic pollution topics or something like that, then I may be not specifically thinking about global warming and climate change like that, but dealing with these topics related to climate change or falling under climate change, that's constantly on my mind. Yes.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I agree that the climate change is like a very broad term, and then there are so many things falling under. But I think that conservation, like nature conservation, and all these efforts, they definitely are related to climate change, because we have to do these things because of the climate change. Because
Well, I definitely agree. They are directly related and stuff, but sometimes dealing with like if you're thinking of um, like a habitat conservation or something, it's like climate change is always pressing down on that, but maybe it's because of more deforestation or something, which isn't necessarily climate. It's something that attributes to climate change, and then climate change also helps with the habitat loss and all of this. But it's like maybe a bit different, is what I'm saying. I'm not always thinking about the warming of the climate, to so to speak, but I'm thinking of the all the other things that fall under it or that go together with it all the time. Yeah,
yeah.
that's what I meant.
If I can ask just one thing, I agree with that. And the thing is, the climate always change. The problem is the velocity, the ratio, how is going to change, and what is our weight in this thing. So if the human activities really change the ratio, the speed of the climate change, that's we have to think. And of course, if you start to think too much, then you start to be kind of depressed because you feel alone, and then you're maybe fighting against all people they completely don't care or they don't know what they're doing. But yeah, I agree.
and now our conversation naturally went to the emotions, feeling depressed and so on. So my next question would be, have you heard of the term eco-anxiety or climate-related anxiety? And
Yes.
what have you heard, in what context have you heard about this?
I went to in university. I studied specifically sustainability, not even environmental sciences, but it was a program called Global Sustainability Science, and it's something that is, well, it was taught there. That's definitely probably where the first time I heard about this term, like this feeling being given a kind of terminology, but yeah, it's I actually, the one time that I really remember when this word eco anxiety stuck in my mind was actually somewhere on Instagram or some social media scrolling, and there was a Extinction Rebellion had posted an article about this feeling, and I read it and I was like, oh, that's me. So yeah.
Pierpaolo, have you heard about
About the label in a specific way, I normally don't think about the things related with a specific label. I just think about what does it mean, not everything or something like that. I start to think more precisely, maybe during the pandemic, during the COVID-19, because I think I think most of the people, they had more time to think about their life and what is going on in their life and what is the future for like your self perception and also for the like humanity, human being, and probably the are kind of overlapping this feeling, like the thing that you feel alone in your house, and then you start to think about yourself and your future, plus what is going on in the world, pandemic, virus, and stuff like that. They makes you stressed and anxious because you don't know if you have enough power to change the future. So I would say I start to think more precisely during the last years. Yeah.
Okay. The next question is very personal. Do you have these feelings of eco-anxiety in your daily life? Do you experience them more or less? And if yes, maybe you can describe maybe some events which might trigger these thoughts about eco-anxiety or like experiencing eco-anxiety.
Pierpaolo, maybe you want to start?
Yeah, thank you. I know that you do only just for me. And so it's quite a wide question. I could start, I would say daily base. Okay, firstly, as an individual, I'm not a person that I just watch the what is going on around me and I don't do anything. As kind of active person, I want to collaborate doing activities and try to sensibilize people in every field and by every environment and every activities that I'm doing. I don't want that anxiety like win on me, and so I try to. Of course I have, and then when I think about this topic, and then probably after this podcast, I would be a little bit more sad than before because I focus on many things that I have care, and yes, I experience it, not daily basis, I would say, but what I see, I experience more daily base what the people, especially the young generation, they have this feeling, and then I observe a lot the behavior of the people, and I would say on myself, I don't feel like big anxiety, but I won't do. So I my power, I change this anxiety in I want to do something different. I want to be more active. That's why I work in the research about how to reduce the pollution, the plastic, and something like that. But I don't want the anxiety like take the control of myself. And I see more on the generation younger than me. That, from my point of view, this is.
Okay, thank you.
Well, I wish I could detach myself successfully as Pierpaolo. But I definitely feel this feeling often, and I definitely do. Although it's everything like Pierpaolo said, watching everything, seeing everything happen around, and then analyzing everything. Even when watching a movie, and there's like it's take a very classic example, like a romantic comedy or something, and then the main character has to go on a shopping spree and stuff, and I'm like, oh, that's so consumerist and terrible, and just even these kinds of things. And also often, even though I try to do what I can, I definitely do put the pressure on myself, which maybe isn't very good. Well, like you should put pressure on yourself, but definitely it is mentally draining when I do something and I'm like, oh, I could not do that. Like one big thing is I have family elsewhere in the world, and then I have to fly to these places. And I'm like, oh, that's so terrible. Like, that I'm flying and all of these things, or I'm buying something in plastic, like a yeah, and all these little things around me, they bring out these feelings quite often. Yes.
I can relate to the feeling because a couple of years ago, I also was adopting more or less a zero waste lifestyle. And so I put so much pressure on myself. I set like goals I cannot achieve. And then I felt guilty for like not achieving my goals. So I think it also takes time to understand the boundaries. How far can you go? And also to understand that you're doing the best you can. So,
Yeah.
okay. Do you want to add something?
No, I just I was thinking about movies, and it was a question also for Keita. And so, what do you think about when you watch some post-apocalyptic movies, and then everything is over, so you can't do anything anymore because it's already done, no? Like a big storm, or I don't know, everything, removing the alien, that is something too far from what can happen. But so, what is your feeling, for example, for this kind of movie if you watch these movies?
Well, actually, I'm a fan of sci-fi.
Okay,
So for me,
okay.
it's very entertaining. I don't. I'm trying to think of good movies where it was like if it's a post-apocalyptic movie and it's just like aliens attack the Earth or like a
Yeah.
comet fell, like whatever. If it's more I'm trying to think of ones that might be related more to this, like climate change, and then people are dying and stuff. I don't know if I've seen, yeah, if there are that many, if I've seen so many of those kinds of movies, but I don't know, the feelings, I am feeling entertained, but I'm also feeling like, well, I take a little, like those movies are super dramatic. Of course, I'm not like, oh, this will be us, and now I'm scared, and like, everyone run, we must build a bunker and like fill it up with food. I'm definitely not feeling like that, but you know, mainly in these kinds of, what I like, for instance, about sci-fi is, or these dystopian stories is that they're essentially kind of philosophical. They're trying to get something across, and then to me, I maybe I do resonate sometimes with that, where it's like,
Mhm.
like, maybe it's about the message of like people being irresponsible and things coming back to you, and I'm like, yeah, like this is not gonna end well. The way we are going. And I'm not thinking like, oh, it will be a wasteland and we're all gonna be running around with spears in the future, but yeah, it is like, it definitely gives a bit of a haunting feeling, like, it
Yes.
gives you something to think about. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, now let's circle back to emotions. We already talked about this a little bit, like that we feel some anxiety maybe, and Pierpaolo already mentioned a little bit how you deal with it, like detachment style, that you kind of try to focus on other things. But maybe you can tell me if you have any strategies or some tools to deal with these emotions, like in the moment when you feel this anxiety, what do you do? How do you cope with it?
So we don't have a specific code to talk. The first thing that is in my mind in general, and also related with this kind of anxiety, when I have to distress myself, most of the time I do sport. I try to reconnect myself with the nature, and not I don't say indoor. I'm more fun for outdoor sport. So I go in the nature and like walk in the forest. That we still have forest right now, so it's not a desert. So I can walk in the forest, maybe see animals, and try to I run and I think and then I clean my mind. So this is I think my most bigger power that I have, and is how I deal with the anxiety. Yeah.
And you, Keita?
Yeah, I agree with Pierpaolo that being in nature definitely gives you this moment. You're like, oh, it is beautiful. Now let me be in the now. It really brings you back. Oh, my internet is sometimes glitching. Did you hear what I said?
Not the whole sentence. Maybe you could repeat it.
Yes, it is. It was just that I agree. Being in nature helps. It gives you some positive feelings. It calms you down a bit, and it brings you back to the present moment. Um, I think running is for sadists. I don't know how people run, so I don't agree with that. But well, not I don't agree, but it doesn't work for me. But actually, very, very honestly about myself, I am terrible at dealing with these emotions. I don't have any really coping way for this,
Mhm.
because even sometimes when I'm in nature, I'm like, wow, it's so beautiful, and then it will all be gone, like, and so then I feel sad again, and yeah, so I wish, actually I had been in your project. Maybe that would have helped, but I distancing myself also, not I guess I'm not very good at that, nor do I really try to do it, because then I feel bad for doing that, essentially, because like you said, Linda, that you try to, you think about like, I'm doing the best I can. But for me, like when I think, oh, I'm doing the best I can, or when someone's like, oh, I recycled my bottles, I'm like, that's good, but it's still not good enough. It's never good enough. And then that's really something that weighs down on me. And I do not have a good coping mechanism for this.
Actually, I want to mention that I think we started to talk about this, like eco-anxiety and climate-related anxiety in the last years. But research says that even more and more young people suffer from it. So do you think it would be also useful to talk about this in school? Because sometimes you know that there's something happening with you, that you have these feelings, but you don't know what are those feelings. So maybe they should incorporate this in school curricula just to speak about it, or no?
Definitely. Okay, also depends by different countries. Maybe they are more focused on this field or not. In general, where I come from, so from Italy, we are not so, we don't pay so much attention about the feeling of the people or the emotion, or to have the people to use the anxiety in the good way. Okay, of course, you will always have in your life, but then what you want to do, you have to deal with that. So not all people, they can run. I mean, we don't become like Forrest Gump and all running all around the world, but there are different techniques talking with about what is your problem. I think is one of the best idea. And of course, when you talk, you must do education. So the education is, I think, the main part, because when you educate the people, and of course you are not, especially for the younger generation, that they know that there is small activities that they do daily base, like recycling the bottles, they can change the climate. You don't see, but also the smallest part of the smallest part of the society can change, can make a difference. So all together, we can make a difference. Alone and with our own problem, without talking with anybody, we can make any difference. So yeah.
I agree. Talking about it is very important. I think there is a very slowly growing trend of including this overall topic of mindfulness in schools, where I don't know, maybe it's just uh, a one kind of seminar session where like a guest speaker comes and all the kids meditate together or something like that. I think that's a good thing. I don't know if it's specifically necessary to talk just about eco anxiety, because anxiety as a whole is it's a big thing, and not all the kids have necessarily eco anxiety, but they might have this anxiety feeling, and any mindfulness tricks will help with that. But I think if schools are educating on the topic of anxiety, which they should definitely, about this mindfulness, then they should, like, mentioning eco anxiety might be a good thing, but a whole curriculum or topic just on eco anxiety, I don't know if is really necessary.
No, I agree. Not a separate subject, but just to incorporate these ideas and techniques in some other subjects or areas. Did you want to add something, Pierpaolo?
I just was thinking about what I observed, because I observe a lot. And when I move around, I remember when I move in different cities in Italy, and I move across some schools. It happens a few times that I have seen these small babies that were going around the garden, like to pick up the garbage, or around the garden doing this activity, of course, with gloves and everything. But when you start at that age, it also helps to do some sport, I would say. Plus, they think about what they are doing, and then they will bring with them for the entire life. I mean, they could. Yeah.
Okay. Next question is a bit general, but I think we already more or less discussed this, so I kind of maybe know what will you answer. Are you hopeful or fearful about the planet's future? What's the feeling you feel?
I have to be real honest. One of my favorite movie is Interstellar. What doesn't mean that I don't have hope, of course. I mean, for who watched Interstellar.
Please explain for someone who hasn't seen Interstellar, because I'm guilty.
Actually,
they should just go watch it. They should just,
exactly. I push the people to go and watch Interstellar. I don't want to say anything. It's kind of, I would say, optimistic movie in some way, but I would say in the short, medium, and for the human life, long term, there are possibilities to change our way to live in this world and find our position. our like how to be real integrated in the world and not just use the energy of this planet. I think yes, it's a very long travel, very long and difficult because of course you have to deal with the few people that want to make money and they don't completely don't care about how's going on in our life and world. But yeah, I have hope always.
Okay.
My kind of roundabout answer to your question maybe is to take, you asked about the planet and looking from a, let's say, ecocentric point of view. If I'm thinking the planet in general, then planet will never die. Like life on this earth will persist always. But if you by planet mean like humanity and all this, then I am very fearful. I do think like working in the fields that I have been working in, I do think that it's time to really look more and more into this climate mitigation than than these kinds of solutions now for the crisis, because the crisis is happening. It's happening and it has momentum. And by the way the economies are going and everything, then I have very little hope that something will change enough to prevent the crisis from continuing, but it will only grow and grow. But the planet, from a ecocentric point of view, I mean, I think there will be lots of ecosystem collapse all around the world. Lots of species will die out, but lots of species will just be just fine. Like life will continue with or without us. And I also don't think all humanity will just die. That's also not what I'm saying. I think
You think
the global south, as we see now, will suffer the most. I think many people will just be wiped out in the global south or in warmer regions on this planet. But some people, of course, will survive and just keep on living. So that's my like
it's our
answer
turn
to
as
this
to be?
question.
We don't want to be like a dinosaur.
Exactly. Well, I don't think we will. Like, I think we do need a comet for us to be like dinosaurs. We need something like the Earth to explode. Like, we will live,
Yeah.
but how many of us is the real question here? I think maybe
No.
nuclear war will kill us all first. That could be our comet. But
So you are very positive. I hear that you are very positive. Like
I know I feel
many ways to
so
go.
bad.
Okay, so maybe to continue on a more positive note, uh, these are like major challenges we're dealing with right now, but maybe you can briefly tell some of the things you do to help preserve well, not only the planet, but also the humanity, as you said, and maybe what some other people could do just to contribute. Maybe it's something, I don't know. Okay, recycling is the bare minimum, but maybe you have some interesting ideas how to help the situation, the to mitigate climate change, to do something to make ourselves feel better for getting involved, for being active.
I think, yeah, if I may,
Mhm.
if I was, I've been, very negative in this whole thing, but if I was really entirely just like, oh, we're all gonna die and everything is terrible, I wouldn't be doing the things that I am doing, like species or nature conservation topics, or I think the point is that when we are educating, like it's still, we can lessen the effects that we have on the planet still. I think what will happen will happen. I don't think we will save everything that we have now. I think we will have to change drastically in the coming years, but that doesn't mean what we are building in the future can't still be better. It still needs to be better, basically. So that's why it's important to still, even if we're thinking, oh, but the floods are already happening and stuff. But yeah, but people will still live and the planet will still live, and we need to learn to take care of it, and it needs to happen. I think personally for people who are yeah, what you can do individually, I think studies show the best impact that you can have is by lessening your consumption of animal products. Not, in an ideal world, not everyone has to be vegan. That's a very, very extreme way to do things, but just really minimizing, because you also, I think, meat consumption and dairy consumption is way more than it should be, even health wise, and just decreasing that by, let's say, 2/3. You're just eating 1/3 of what you used to eat from that. That makes a huge difference. And then trying to go zero waste, which means, and ideally that is reducing what you are buying. Just don't buy things from AliExpress and Temu and stuff. You don't need those little, like, that cool poster or something like that. You'll live without it. But in any case, the world is full of things, existing, functioning, good things, clothes, appliances, and stuff like that, and just getting used items. That makes a huge difference. So you're not buying new things, just buying already, like, you already existing things. Somewhere in some trash pile or in someone's home is something that they don't use that you would want in your home. So yeah, that's for me.
No, I think the answer is very full. I would just say the thing they don't have to do and stop. Like the problem that we watched during the COVID, that the people, they stop to do many activities. They start to stay in their own spaces and own room without do anything and thinking, and start to be depressed and anxious about I mean, some people that after COVID and after like weeks or months, they were in their own house. They were scared to walk around their own cities and just to see someone else. No, so if you stop to do, you are lost. So if you continue to do activities, education, you continue to educate children, that they then becomes adult and they continue. It's a very long process. You can really change in all activities that you just mentioned. Absolutely, I completely agree. Yeah.
You almost partly covered my last question, which was what advice, if any, would you have for people who have this climate-related anxiety? But I think you already more or less gave me an answer to that. If there's something you want to add, you can. But I guess the thing is just to keep doing something, not to stop, and just to be aware of your consumption, of your purchasing habits, your diet. Maybe you have some other general advice you would like to give, or no?
Oh, I mean, I would say if you want something more practical, maybe join to the positive advisor. So, for example, the social media are full of garbage or people that will make money on you, like without care about the environment or the world and anything. So join maybe you like sport, join the sport, doing something that you are making feeling better. You keep away your anxiety. And then, of course, if you feel that, for example, there are many groups. So there is one is quite famous also. Many of them, they are participated communities. This is the idea, no? Because they develop some group, like one is, I think, plastic free. Some are like no profit, and then they work with a small team that they just recycle the plastic or the garbage. And some are made from community. So you join this community, you have the same idea, the same vision, and then maybe you do one day on one Sunday that when you would start to have a new friendship, and maybe your goal is clean this street or the city or maybe the park for the children. So doing something like that.
I totally agree with everything Pierpaolo said. I think doing keep doing things, and by doing, like for instance you mentioned social media, I think, yeah, like in social media there's lots of bad news all the time, and it can get you really down, and that's something I've also tried, and something I think that definitely helps. I didn't really think so much about it until just now, but it's like following accounts where like they have these DIY things. Like there's many ways to just there are many people on social media posting about like, oh, how to use your old something something, and then you watch it, you're like, wow, that's so cool, and I could do that. And and then maybe one day you will. I mean, 99% of the time you won't do it because you'll forget, and and that was like a inspirational moment for 1 second, but at least it was there, and it looks cool, and it gives you kind of like this perspective of it gives you this power that you can do something, at least, even if it's a small thing. And I think that's very important. Educating yourself, I think, is also very a good point. Educating others. And I think a really important thing is talking to people. But here you have to be careful, because one is who you talk to, because sometimes for me, talking to people, it can make you lose hope, because you have those people who they don't want to listen and they don't care, and then you're like, oh, nobody cares about this. So it's good to have those people who do care around you, or who are ready, or not even who care, but who are ready to listen, or like, oh yeah, like, wow, that's interesting. I think that's a very cool moment when you get an idea into someone's head or something like that. Like I have many friends who smoke, and they used to throw the cigarette butts on the ground, and I was like, ah, don't do it. At first we would fight about it, like, oh, but I don't care, and it goes into the drain system, and then it's all okay and stuff like that. But then eventually, I got through to them, and I was like, and then they started to carry around these little packet things, like these little jars where they put the cigarette butts. They're like, I love it. And now I tell everyone else that they can't do it, like when I see someone throw it on the street, I'm like, yes. And that's such a great moment for me, and I love that. But it's also important, if you're speaking to people who are like-minded, to get those positive vibes. You have to also be careful to not get stuck in that bubble, because then you are surrounding yourself just by people who are saying the exact same thing as you, and then you're not getting anywhere again. And I think that's dangerous. And then you're also developing this kind of image of how people are in society, but you're actually in a very, very niche little like-minded group. So that's important, not to get stuck there, but to have those people when you need them.
Okay, thank you very much. I think we've come to the end of our conversation. So I want to thank you both again for sharing your opinions, your views. It was definitely interesting for me. And I think it's going to be also very interesting for our listeners. So thank you very much. And maybe I will see you in other projects or some activities.
Yeah, definitely. Thank you so much for your time.
Yes. Thank you.